We have our next panel coming up. This is kind of following a theme today about engagement, social media, but also collaborations. The title of this panel is Building Sustainable Communities in the Web3 Era by Nurturing Collaborations and Engagement. And to moderate this wonderful panel, his name is Liam Wright. Put your hands together for this panel.
All right, guys. So, Wes, we've met a few times. We've done podcasts together. Do you want everyone just introduce yourself first? Save me kind of fluffing it all up, just like the chairs. So, Wes, you want to go first?
Sounds great. My name is Wes Levitt. I'm head of strategy at Theta Labs, where we built the Theta blockchain. If you don't know, it's an L1 focused on the media and entertainment space. So we do a lot of work with video platforms, NFT communities, anything in crypto that's focused on entertainment. So to that end, we have our own NFT platform called Theta Drop, where we've seen many communities be launched and be built up. And there's also an independent NFT marketplace called Open Theta that's built on our chain as well, that's had a lot of their own NFT communities built. And then we also had the chance with one of our NFT DRM tech, we can actually use that to power non-Theta NFT programs as well. So for example, we work with World of Women to host their gala event in December in Miami, so that was very cool as well.
Fantastic. Collectxr, do you want to go next?
GM everyone, I'm Collectxr. I am a Web3 degen. I spend my time across like Twitter, recently Threads. I help communities build organically, help them with engagement. Shout out to SuperSpaces, spend a lot of time on there. You can find me on Twitter at the same handle above. And yeah, just been exploring the depths of like Web3, everything from like domains to NFTs to tokens to recently like ordinals. There's a lot happening across Web3, even though it seems like the markets are slow from like an external point of view, but the communities are very active, lots of new innovation coming out all the time, and I try and bring that to the communities in general.
Fantastic. Sara?
Yes. So thank you so much for being here. I'm very happy to be on this stage. So I'm here representing Exclusible. I don't know if you are familiar with Exclusible, but Exclusible is a Portuguese startup that we created in September of 2021. Pretty much focused on being a marketplace as well for NFTs, but very much focused on the luxury segment. So we were able to work like with amazing brands such as Asper Bugatti, Alpine. We also develop right now the Boss Metaverse experience. And so actually it's very funny because we started only focusing on NFTs, community building, and how to unlock the power of Web3 for brands and literally work in that intersection between the Web2 and the Web3. But then like all the brands were like super crazy about the Metaverse. They really want to explore all these possibilities. So of course we created our own Metaverse department. We also we acquired a US Metaverse builder agency named Polycount. They are in charge for more than 80% of all the Metaverse spaces out there. And we consider ourselves completely agnostic when it comes to the Metaverse space. Brilliant. So we work across like all the different platforms. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we managed to, for 2022, we generate 10 million only with NFTs. We launched more than 17 NFT collections, and my role and my job at Exclusible is pretty much in the marketing area and partnerships as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And now we are starting a new challenge.
Yes, brilliant. And last but not least, Harry?
Awesome. Well, firstly, thanks for having me here. I used to have to corner people at parties when they were drunk, tell them about crypto. So, yeah, look, I've been building communities since 2013. You know, I built a protocol, went 100x, turned out I was terrible at dev, set up a marketing agency, and we're working with the likes of Solana, Near, Tezos, many other projects. And we recently sold our business to Stephen Bartlett, and we're now building Flight Story. I'm CEO of Flight 3, which is the Web3 section. We're trying to build the first blue chip Web3 marketing agency, 100 plus people. And then I'm running Zebu Live, 3,500 people in London, 100 side events, boat party, drone show. Everyone should come, it's gonna be loads of fun.
I almost wore my Zebu Live t-shirt.
Oh.
You did those last year, you did those GM ones.
Yeah.
Like I've got like 4 of them, I wear them all the time, they're amazing.
Quite a funny story there because they were meant to be on the back and me and my creative designer had a big but it was a printing error. But we roll, it's Web3.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to start with We're moving towards the next cycle in crypto. We've got the halving coming up next year. This time we've got a lot more institutional interest than we did when we went into this cycle. With that in mind, how much do you think community is going to play a factor into this new, maybe more mature cycle next time? Maybe start with you, Wes?
Yeah, I think it depends on what slice of the crypto space you're talking about. So like the institutional interest you're seeing coming in, it's almost entirely BTC and ETH, and maybe Solana, maybe a few other blue chips, but that'll probably be the main driving factor in this next cycle for the mega caps, if you can call them that, because the institutional money is just going to dwarf whatever money retail can pour into that. But I think NFTs, you're not going to see BlackRock making ETFs, at least not anytime soon, for NFT collections. That's still going to be crypto communities from the ground up that are driving those forward.
Is that something you'd want? I mean, Collectxr is something you're big in that space in terms of the next cycle. Do you think community is important? Do you want to see institutional money into this side of the space?
I think, firstly, I think there's a misconception about the institutions. They've been around in the crypto space. It just hasn't been like public data, or they haven't done like a marketing campaign around this. BlackRock has had access to crypto through various hedge funds and companies that they're already heavily invested in. So indirectly, they've already been part of the Web3 and crypto ecosystem. It's just not that directly through them. And of course, community is very important. If people are building in the bear market right now, when there isn't like much liquidity about, there is innovation, but there isn't like mass adoption or anything right now. The people that are building right now are going to be like the experts and leaders and the communities that are going to be leading the space within the next bull market, because they've already positioned themselves deep in a bear market. So if you look at like Telegram and Discord, and like some of these chats just don't stop, and the stage we just had about ordinals, that's a whole new innovation in the space that people don't really care about. And like just to see how much traffic there already is in the market. Like Bitmaps came out, and within 1 to 2 weeks, 800,000 were inscribed. So there's already like still a lot of volume, even though on the outside it doesn't seem to be.
So building on that, Harry, with Flight 3, you talk about how brands need to become innovators. How is that applicable to building sustainable communities?
So I think like community is a bit of a buzzword. The reason why we grew with community is, one, like Web3 is like worse than Web 1 UX and UI. So if you didn't explain to me how to use Uniswap, I'd be like, this is how you get on, and the trust. And then the second thing is that we couldn't advertise. In 2018, Google banned all crypto ads. Like before, we could just go, right, I want to target X user clicking, searching for this. And so community built. And then I think a lot of people use it as a buzzword. Sometimes you've got to like, do you need a community, or are you building a sales funnel? And so I think as these new people come in, they're going to need their own community to bond. But I don't think it's one size fits all. And I think some people, does this need to be an NFT? Does it actually need a community? Are you actually going to invest in it, or do you just want to do sales? And I think making sure you know the distinction, you know, like what Frank the Gods has done with his community. You can go any city, anywhere, you can go out and he'll be there, or a youth will be there and be like, come stay at my house, whatever. That's a real community, as opposed to some projects that like an institution doesn't quite need that maybe.
Interesting. I mean, one of the things that I think we all kind of believe in Web3 is that we can kind of hopefully now do things better than they were before. So with that in mind, Sarah, with what you're doing with sort of NFTs and Metaverse, are there any things you're doing specifically to make the space have more equity for people, maybe especially in sort of the gender equality space and areas like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think touching on the fact, like community related, that everyone was mentioning, this is a very good point where we are speaking with brands. For us, the most difficult part is for them to understand why, and why this is so important, and why they are entering the space. Because some of them are just doing this like for press and exposure or for sales, or others are doing this with a long-term vision, and that resonates with all NFT collections that they want to launch, all Metaverse spaces, because they can easily spend like, I don't know, a couple of like $100 in building a Metaverse space, and then what? Like, how is this part of the strategy? So, of course, everything needs to be aligned, and in the end, tell a story and make sense with the narrative of the brand as well, and the values. So that's that's why and how they can create a community.
Okay, so you're saying that there's like a hurdle to get them interested in the first place. So are you still then struggling to be able to push like the message around building better communities?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everything needs to happen for a reason, not just like for the sake of being there and just creating because of the others are doing the same thing, 100%.
I think it's something that I've heard quite a bit around the conferences around what you were saying about communities, like are communities just the product? Are you just kind of asking your communities to continuously kind of give you something and you need to give something back? How do you feel, Wes, around like the nature of the word community and it being a buzzword? Is it really just some like marketing speak, like business development back in the day, like sales to business development to make it kind of easier to digest?
Yeah, you're not entirely wrong. I mean, it's obviously case by case with different communities. There's clearly many that to them it was just the drop, effectively the fundraise was the point, and then afterward it's doing just enough to build a community or give back to the community to not be accused of rugging the project. So you have to be very selective, I guess, if you want to be a part of one of these NFT communities and commit to it and commit your resources to it. Is this one that really is genuinely building something together, or is it just someone checking the boxes? Because you see all types. Yeah.
I mean, one area where it's obviously definitely important is when we're looking into sort of the decentralized governance of Web3. So we're looking at DAOs, like DAO participation. I mean, Collectxr, I know that you're working towards some DAOs at the moment and you know the space. What can we do and how can we improve or keep engagement in sort of DAOs to make sure that people are actively engaged in the things that will matter to them?
So one thing is to actually move DAOs away from like the Web 2 structure and have that autonomous structure that no one person or no one entity is the leader of this DAO. Like it's a community thing and it should be that way. That's what SuperSpaces are creating right now, bringing in the different creators from Twitter's like top speakers and stuff into this. So they've already got a community that are active in the Web3 and bringing them all together and then eventually find a way to reward these builders in a fair and equal way that kind of works for everyone. And that's why DAOs are so popular in Web3, because the concept of it is if you put in the work, you should get the rewards equally. And I think that's a great way to build Web3.
I think it's really interesting that Web3 is obviously extremely transactional in nature at its fundamental basis because it's based on blockchains that are transactions. But for me at least, the personal relationships and networking that I've done feels a lot less transactional than in Web 2. Harry, how do you feel about that? Do you feel that that's the case and is it something that we can use as our superpower?
Yeah, I mean, like, if we think about when the community started, it was like, do you have a wallet and are you into crypto? And it's like, wow, let's chat, let's go. Now, you know, you go to NFT NYC and it's like, whoa, no, we're a World of Women, we're this group, we're that group. You're not allowed in this community. We've come to such a big stage where like, oh, we're a Solana group, we're an ETH group. And actually all the mixtures of the communities together are all sort of building. I think people get way too caught up in like numbers of community. Like, when we're building community, people ask us like, oh, should it be done on Discord? Should it be done on Telegram? Should it be Threads, what everyone's talking about at the moment? It doesn't really matter where your community live, as long as you're authentic and you double down. And you know, if we look at community in football, or in, my good friend Tommy is here and he was talking about the music community, we could be in any club anywhere in the world and we could hear a track and all of us would just go, wow, we get that.
I just want to challenge you there very slightly. You say it doesn't matter where your community is. What about owning your community though? So like, I'm on Lens Protocol, I'm sure a lot of people here and other equivalent sort of platforms. Like, does it matter where your community lives? Because do you need something where you can pick it up and move it to another platform?
Yeah, if your community is loyal, they'll go to where it's cool. You know, I think it's about allowing people to be different levels of community. I can be a watcher, I can be a mid-level, or I can be in the god tier, the secret, the inner parts. And it's about making people want to work their way up and showing that, because people are lazy, you know. When we're making content, we've got to make sure we write the tweet for them, we make the image for them, and then they share it, and they get that word out. Because people, if you make it easy for people to join the community, then they can share it. And so, yes, we've always got to be scared of Zuck. He holds all of our data. It's why we still use email lists. email lists are still such a valuable part of community building because you own that. The American tech companies can't take that away from you. Look, Lens and Stanny, they're doing some cool stuff. We're still waiting to see like real traction.
Yeah, network effect for it.
Network
There's
effect.
a lot of Web2 tools that you're talking there. Collectxr, do you agree? Like from someone that's very deep in the sort of Web3 community space?
Yeah, like your community definitely has to be adaptable. You mentioned like threads recently, that's been like the hot topic, got like 100 million users in like a week or something. So that's huge growth. But I feel like a lot of that growth was down to the UI. When you download threads, it gives you the option to follow everyone you're already following on Instagram. So now there's kind of like two kind of creators on threads. Just briefly like chilling that if no one's like explored it. The Twitter, crypto, like people that are daily GM, they know how to use like a text-based kind of social media, whereas like an Instagram influencer may not have that kind of like knowledge yet. It doesn't mean that they won't. And the Instagram's influencers with like 10, 20, 50,000 followers, they'll automatically get like a large following on threads because their audience from Instagram will then be transferred onto there. So it's like the Twitter guy might have less followers, but they'll be more quality crypto related, whereas the Instagram one will have a flood of followers that might not necessarily know about Web3, and that's kind of like the bridge where people can meet and like, oh shit, there's a whole community talking about this kind of stuff, and that could be a key to mass adoption as well.
Yeah, for sure. And when we're looking at adoption, Sarah, one of the things that has definitely plagued the space for a long time is kind of crypto bros and terminology that's not kind of very open to sort of the mainstream. Is it something you're still seeing as a challenge in the space where you're working? When you're having to explain these Metaverse projects to companies, is there a lot of translating you have to do still?
100%. That's pretty much my entire job at the beginning.
How do we get around that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, but I think it's always around like education and try to, because for me, I think the word NFT will be much simple if it wasn't called NFT. Like I say that a lot, like NFT, like what is that? So for brands, it will be more easy for them to understand what this represents, right? Like the next layer of like engagement and the building a relationship with your customer that now is also part of the community. So we really just, we use like different terms for the same thing, but like in a new virtual environment that they need to adapt. So that's pretty much like everything that we do. Like at the beginning, when we are working with a brand, it's pretty much educating the entire team from like the manager until the CEO if needed.
So Wes, at Theta, because you're in charge of strategy there,
Correct.
Yeah. How much does engagement, community, collaboration, how important are those three sort of pillars in the strategy? And does it differ to anything you did in Web2 prior?
Yeah, it actually depends even a lot among what the community is or what the NFT drop it is that you're talking about. Because, for example, we did a series of NFT drops with the TV show American Idol where they wanted to basically you offer a set of cards that represent a singer and you can vote on which ones you can think are going to win each week by buying the NFT. And it's almost sort of like a marketplace, like a prediction market as to who's going to win. First of all, other interesting thing is they didn't want to say NFT at all. They said it's a digital collectible, which is fine for us too. We don't really care as long as it's the technology under the hood, and if it's easier for their fans to understand, that's great. But they weren't focused so much on building a new community because they have tens of millions of people that already have, and they already have a stronger community than any NFT project out there. But then on the other hand, you have the ones that are crypto native and starting from scratch, and it's literally all they have is the crypto community that they're building. It's not like the NFTs they released, these 10,000 PFPs are technically innovative. It's all about the human connections. So I think that's not only the most critical thing, but it's really the only thing they have, that and the art, but it's got to be the community.
So looping back to what I said at the beginning around sort of the cyclical nature of markets, Collectxr, how do you sustain a community through bear markets, and what does sustaining it actually mean? Because obviously as the interest drops off, you can't expect to keep your entire community. What would you see as being success as things go down?
It depends on like the aim of your community and what you want to do with it. If you just want to like, I don't know, educate people and keep people within like the Web3 ecosystem to sustain like a community, have them on your platforms, whether it's Discord, whether it's Telegram. Make sure that like your community is actually providing alpha and like knowledge and like, insights to anyone joining it. For instance, our Telegram channel, you've got like AI, you can like ask questions, you can like create NFTs with it, you can gain like airdrops for being active. And a lot of Web3 communities they want something in return as well. They don't just want to say I'm part of this project because I have their NFT or something. They want to actually gain some kind of utility, whether that's like a monetary value, whether that's like a TOAP, a POAP, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, it's just to keep like providing alpha, even if there isn't like liquidity or anything coming in, have something that's different to other communities, not just GM, like actually provide value.
Yeah, I completely hear that. One of my favorite NFTs is the Killer Bears project, and they've been telling their story, like they really kind of started pushing the story during the bear market, and it led to kind of an all-time high, their thing before everything fell off again. And I think it is really interesting. It doesn't have to be financially driven necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, Harry, what's your thought in terms of when the markets are down, what can you do that's not financially motivated to keep Web3 communities interested?
Yeah, so when we're looking at like growth and marketing in this market, it's like good marketing. You know, you're not turning on your taps and blasting out big acquisition campaigns. You've got to like nurture your community. And one of the reasons why community is so key here is like we're all building this together. And so the people that are here in this room and have been here for the last brutal 8-9 months, where everyone's like, whoa, the free beer, the free merch is all sort of like dried up from the big mega brands throwing it around. Actually, we're all still here. We're all still building. We're building together, and like making sure that we're giving value to each other. We're supporting each other, and like we are 230 days away from the halving. You know, narrative is the most important thing to change mood, and those connections that you build in this community, and like what we do is a lot of like, you know, Solana is amazing at their IRL community building. They've got hacker houses all around the world. They're every month. Everyone's coming together. They're building together. They know each other. They meet online, and the investment that they've done in that is now making lots of other projects come, and everyone knows each other. And so it's like, whoa! I met a guy yesterday that was building a Telegram Discord bots, met him in real life, and now that's part of the community. So I think trying to give value to your community in this time, encourage them, and get ready for that next stage and understand where that growth's going to come from, because you don't need big numbers. You know, real communities could be 4 or 5 people hanging out together, and then it builds and it builds. And like sometimes when we're online, we look at these numbers and they go, whoa, they've got 60,000 followers, but most of them are just like Instagram bots or Twitter bots that have joined for $5. Actual community members that vote in your DAO or do these actions, they're the ones that you want to nurture in this time, because the fair weather sailors will come back soon, I hope.
So Sarah, as we go through this, hopefully bullish transition into the next cycle, what do you think are some of the main challenges that we're going to have to make sure that Web3 is more equitable, more inclusive than Web2?
I mean, there's a lot of that we can do, right? I think it's also a matter of like being creative and not just like, at least for me, because I work very much like with brands, right? It's not, we don't create like from scratch Web3 projects. Of course, we did our own collection, so we have that as an example as well, and we were able to build our community around that. And I totally agree with everything that you were saying about like adding value. You know, they really want to keep receiving new things, but things that really matter, not just like the GMs of life and, you know, all the updates. I mean, they all know that. And they are not stupid at all, and they are very well informed on how to complain. Honestly, I hate Discords, to be honest. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm against Discord
but like,
as well.
Every time that I receive like notifications on Discord, I'm like, no, please, this is a disaster.
So let's what are your thoughts? Making it more inclusive and equitable.
Yeah, I like prefer. Sorry, what was the question?
How do we make sure going into the next cycle, as we grow, we keep this feeling of community, it's inclusive, equitable people?
Like what Altcoin Daily was saying, stay consistent, sharp all the time, always provide value and stuff. Like, if you, for instance, if you disappear now, you know, the crypto is like finished, there's like, it keeps going down, hyperinflation around the world and all this, and like, you go away from the industry, people are going to forget about you. But if you're there consistently all the time, people are seeing your face online, in spaces, and groups, and chats, you're going to stay relevant and you're going to keep growing because no one else is. Like right now, a lot of the activity on Twitter has gone down. That's why so many people have run to Threads, because they feel like they can get like a fresh set of dopamine because there's a new community on there effectively.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Well, we've got the red light, so I feel like that's about it. One word. What's the most important thing to grow a community or sustain a community? It can be a sentence if you can't just do one word. Harry?
Yeah, it's got to be authenticity.
Authenticity. Sarah?
Co-creation.
Co-creation.
Yes.
Remaining bullish. Remaining bullish.
It's a shared purpose.
Shared purpose. Brilliant. Well, can everyone just thank our panelists for today, guys? And I think that's it for the session.
Thank you.
Thank you.